Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is a perfect sequel to Spider-Man 2018 and Miles Morales, but it falls short in some areas to consider it a perfect game. We've been waiting for Insomniac's Spider-Man 2 for 5 years. That's longer than I've been in high school.
Mom, Dad, I know I've only been in high school for 6 months, but I think I'm gonna quit. I really want to be a pro gamer, and I would really love for you guys to support me financially for the rest of my life.
I was pretty much convinced that Spider-Man 2 was never going to release. And now that Spider-Man 2 is out, I think it's pretty safe to say this is the most fun I have ever had swinging across New York. It's a blast to just whip around, pull off a few tricks, and my favorite addition, the web wings. This completely changes the traversal. Now you may think this isn't going to make much of a difference, but it makes it a completely different experience, especially when you bring swing assist down to 0 with fall damage off. You get a lot better at swinging, and it makes it more tense and rewarding when you get to Mach 10 speed without hitting a single obstacle. The new animations, not just for combat, but traversal, breathe new life into this game. Not only do you feel the exaggerated swagger of a black teen, but the dirty cringe of a white man. And it also helps that NYC is beautiful in Spider-Man 2. But of course it looked good in Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales, but here it just looks more real. And I don't mean realistic for fidelity, but just more tangible. The first 2 games felt like I was watching footage that was filmed on an iPhone, but here it feels like you're swinging through New York City. The trees have this lively green, the water separating the boroughs have a really deep blue, and the city has this amazing hustle and bustle. It's really weird how the New York City here looks and feels so different and fresh from the first games. You see a new side of the Big Apple, and all I want to do is explore it all. And at the end of the game, when you see New York City just covered in symbiote tendrils with rain pouring down, it gives this sense of hopelessness, especially seeing Miles in that new suit. Eek. And the swinging just feels a lot more intense in Spider-Man 2. Like when I'm trying to evade obstacles using the web wings, not only am I doing the lean, I'm bobbing and weaving real life. To the untrained eye, I'm having a boxing match with my PS5. Also, the difficulty feels perfectly balanced this time around. Spider-Man 2018 and Miles Morales felt like they just kind of buried you with enemies to make it more difficult, but here they actually feel like they're better than you. I felt like when I died in the first 2 games, it was kind of unfair. Now more often than not, I could see it's my fault and not the game's. The combat gets a pretty good overhaul too. Gone is the gadget wheel, and in comes 4 circles on each bottom of the screen. I love circles! For Peter, you get his mechanical spider arms or his symbiote. Miles gets his bioelectricity, but both get some pretty slick web-based abilities. But to a point, the most you're really gonna do is just... The new parry system absolutely Now it is pretty hard to pull off, especially when you're getting Mike Tysoned by a big ass enemy, but when you pull it off, it's better than sex.
Dad, I know I haven't had sex, but I've done a successful parry in Spider-Man 2, and you can't take that away from me.
You gotta get some muff, boy.
And the boss fights are sublime here. The problem with the first 2 games is that the boss fights are always kind of lame, but also you didn't get to see a lot of these characters as people before you fought them, like Kingpin, Vulture, Electro. And just about every single boss fight in Spider-Man 2 feels a lot more intense because you have that personal connection. I think there's only one boss fight in the entire game that doesn't have a direct personal tie to either Spider-Man, and even still, it was a super fun boss fight. Twitter degenerates online are saying that the boss fights are better because there's a health bar. I don't think it makes it better, but I do really like the health bar a lot. I did see this one complaint online saying that the boss fights felt a little too video gamey. Like, no Sherlock, what do you expect a video game boss fight to feel like? Ooh, this game feels like I'm eating lasagna. And the villains in Spider-Man 2 are just done so well. Sandman is this tragic story of a father whose mind is being split, and he just wants to be a good role model for his daughter, but he has to do these awful things because he's forced by Kraven. And the game just doesn't tell you he's going on these hunts. It shows you. You see it. It's badass. He straight up just kills 4 out of the Sinister 6. And Kraven in this game is just a guy. I don't think he's got like any mythical mumbo jumbo. He just likes to hunt. Bet he hates going to the supermarket.
I asked for an equal. And this is what you find.
And I gotta say, This is the best that Venom has ever been. And not only is Venom a total badass, but completely terrifying. And I don't just mean intimidating, but genuinely scary. I'll be honest, I felt my booty hole pucker up when Venom was on screen. They're doing so much on screen. We've never seen Venom like this on any scale in any movie or game. It's refreshing to have this completely threatening version to contrast the silly Venom from the movies. And yes, Venom is a they, but not because they are non-binary, because they are literally two And the story just feels so much more personal and intimate than ever before. So, bit of a spoiler here, but I think this is what the Miles Morales game did perfectly. Having Miles and Finn go from childhood enemies to childhood best friends to reluctant enemies was pretty f***ing perfect. They do a kind of similar arc with Harry and Peter, and brilliant, dude. I loved it. And I know a lot of people despise the idea of Harry Osborn as Venom, but I like it. It worked for me in the Ultimate cartoon, and it works better here. And the MJ missions, oh my god, they are great. And I know this is what everyone hated in the first Spider-Man game by Insomniac, but here there are these really cool stealth shooter sections that are borderline Metal Gear Solid.
There you are.
Mary Jane is a ride or die for Peter. She's a total badass. This is the best interpretation we've had of her since Spectacular Spider-Man. Albeit she's just Lois Lane, but she's still so cool. And this is where you see the symbiote at its most horrifying. Peter is asleep and is basically used as a puppet by Venom, and he is terrifying.
I'm here to talk about your car's extended warranty.
If I saw all 19 inches of Venom, I'd be running and screaming for my life. And one thing that really stood out to me was Norman Osborn. Typically in the comics, he's this billionaire egomaniac that's embarrassed by his son, but not here. Norman is a widower, desperate to cure Harry, and is willing to go to the ends of the earth and do heinous things to save the one person he has left. You feel his anguish and distress as he's just trying to save his son, just wanting things to be normal. Everything all just feels so much more personal, especially the side missions. Homecoming and Howard come to mind, but where you really see the personal side of Spider-Man 2 is with the themes: battling your insecurities and balance. It teaches us through Spider-Man that we can't give in to our insecurities, to be brave when it's hard, and to always make time for those that we love and to do things that we love. Spider-Man 2 was also coming out at the perfect time in my life where I'm about to be a dad. And it really resonated with me, this insecurity of, will I be a good dad? And how do I balance this new life ahead of me? So many times, Peter and Miles alike have these scenes where they're scared that they're not good enough to be there for those that they love, that they won't be able to save those that need to be saving, that they're not good enough to handle the mantle of Spider-Man. But they are. We've all felt this at a time in our lives, and I think when you play this, you'll know exactly what I mean. And just taking a sidestep right now, I want to be honest, Yuri Lowenthal was never a top candidate for me for Spider-Man voice actors. I always felt his delivery was kind of basic. But in the first game, I saw him do something really special with the character that was more than just superhero squad type delivery. This was better than some of the movies that we had, and here, wow. It's really hard to argue that Yuri isn't one of the best actors to play Spider-Man. His range is impeccable. You see his version of Peter Parker go from like a nice high school kid, a struggling mid-20-year-old trying to make ends meet, and basically a drug addict just trying to quit the stuff. It's really incredible to see voice actors voice act, not just read a line on a script in a quirky way. Yuri is just given so much to do here as Spider-Man. You can tell he's having so much fun playing this role. Especially as Bully Lowenthal. Dude, those lines are crazy.
No wonder your family left you. Why don't you pop some more pills and say what you're really feeling? Hey. You're too weak to get control back, aren't you? The truth is, I'm the hero here, not you.
I met you in California.
So as you can see, I'm right behind what looks like a dumpster, but it's really a Spider-Man fanboy's brain. There's some crazy hot takes in these things, so let's see what we can come up with. Now there are some crazy hot takes in here, like Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3 was a good movie. So a little known fact, being around a Spider-Man fanboy for more than 5 seconds is known to cause brain rot, so I'm out of here.
I will say, it's kind of retarded when you see people online saying, the new Spider-Man game takes place in New York City? That's so uncreative. They're just trying to reuse assets. They're lazy. Like, where would a Spider-Man game take place? Really? Tell me. And I think it's because the recent MCU movies and Spider-Verse took them all across the multiverse, the entire planet, space. Like, I'll be honest, I think it'd be really cool to see a Spider-Man game in like Seoul, South Korea, Tokyo, Japan, but just play Project Moongen for that. One thing everyone's complaining about that I agree with are the suits. A lot of these suits are ass ugly. Half of these look like they're AI generated and the others are just plain ugly. How is it that Insomniac has made the best Spider-Man redesign twice over, the second one making the other one look like dog, and they make these ugly ass suits? Like, what is this? Look at Wraith. She looks like a cheap Arrowverse CW villain of the week. Spider-Man 2 also has these really insane skill trees that'll take a millennium to finish. Getting whatever tokens or tech parts needed for suits and upgrades is kind of tedious, and the game just feels kind of rushed at the end. And I am not that kind of guy that wants every single game to be 100 hours. And to be honest, bro, 16 hours is kind of pushing it for me. But I think the Venom arc could have been a lot more fleshed out, maybe put more of a spotlight on exaggerated swagger, but you play most of the side missions as Miles anyway. To the same tune, I think spending a bit more time with Peter under the influence of the symbiote and seeing him become more dependent on it would have been pretty cash money. But what we got here is still tight as. And on the flip side, I don't think that Spider-Man 2 wastes my time in the way that the first game did. And I know a lot of people are really pissed off that this game doesn't waste their time, like they can't go on a subway or a parking lot. Like, dude, you're Spider-Man, just swing there. Hell, the fast travel is the fastest fast travel I've ever seen. And also, just like a tiny nitpick, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this game really should have had online multiplayer. Spider-Man 2 feels like it was made with online multiplayer in mind. Hell, there are so many times where I'm trying to stop a crime and then I just run into the other Spider-Man or Wraith. And it feels like really organic. This would have been so much fun to do with your friends. And the last thing I want to talk about is something that all of the Insomniac Spider-Man games do, and they hold your hand way too much. Like right before a really climactic scene, the game just stops, puts up a pop-up on my screen, and kills all the momentum. Like, I'm 15 out of 16 hours into the game. I already know when to punch enemies. Like, I am competent at this game. I don't work at IGN. Imagine your favorite movie right before the best part just stops and explains the entire thing to you.
You look lonely.
There's so much I really want to talk about with Spider-Man 2. This is such a great game. But if I keep going on, I'm going to do an 8-hour video like White Light or Luke Stevens. I just hope soon we get some updates or DLC story content. And if you want to see me talk even more about Spider-Man games, I have a playlist right here.